So hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. I'm really thrilled we're having this conversation. We have a nice sort of group of young and not young people on the call. We do even have high school students. We have, I think, Gabrielle, who is 17, I think. And we have a recent high school graduate, Madison, who's 18. So legit young people. I would like for this to be like a real kind of brainstorm, like a sharing of ideas. But you know, we're here to listen. We're here to come out with ideas with you. But ultimately, I think the best people to do this kind of outreach to young people are other young people. So we are gonna hope, you know, we're hoping that you guys take on the responsibility of executing on some ideas too. But for now, I want to just go around and introduce everyone, starting with Caitlin.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much to Annabelle for holding this really important discussion. I live in Northern Virginia, and I'm a community activist and advocate. I am very passionate about ensuring young people's voices are heard and that we have a seat at the table when important decisions are being made. I feel if young people are not being represented, then who else isn't? We know at this time during the Black Lives Matter movement and COVID-19, young people are not being heard and we're not being represented, that's for sure. And so I'm really grateful that we're having this important discussion and that we're bringing attention to this because young people are the future and our voices absolutely matter. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madison.
Hi, I'm Madison. I recently graduated from high school and will be starting my freshman year of college this year virtually. I'm looking to study political science and environmental studies. So I'm really excited to be getting more involved in politics. I've worked on a few local campaigns and I'm just excited to talk about how we can get more young people involved in the political experience like I have been recently. So thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you. Jabari?
Hello, I'm Jabari. I'm in New York. I was sort of born into the peace and justice movement. I'm an actor, singer, content creator, also a manager at a wonderful grocery store.
Okay, Joseph?
Hello, my name is Joseph Joe Pletka. I am from Cresco, Iowa. I'm currently in a moving vehicle on my way back to my sister's house. But I'm a student who has been quite active in local politics, and I am currently working with a state senate campaign and trying to make sure that we include numerous young voices because they're going to be the future of this country.
Thank you. Gabrielle?
Hi, I'm Gabrielle. I am an incoming senior in high school, and I have done a few calls with Annabelle in the past, and they've been amazing. And I love places where we can have conversation over many different divides. And that's why I'm here. Yeah.
Thank you. Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim. I am a mom of young people who are in their early 20s. So this is obviously an issue that I find very important. And we've had some good conversations. But yeah, I've just recently, now that my kids are older, become more active and involved. And so I'm excited to see what I can do and what I can participate in.
Thank you. Heather?
Unmuting. Hi, okay, so my name is Heather Page. I am the mom of 4, 2 of which are young activists. And I'm proud to say that they actually got me more involved in politics. My son was a political intern when he was 16. My daughter worked on the campaign as well. We love politics. We want to make sure that everybody's voices are heard and that there is good representation on every level of government. I agree that if young people are not being represented, other people are not being represented as well. Why young people are important. because you guys, if you make decisions or if you're not making decisions, you have to live with it for a very long time. I don't have to live with it for as long as you do. So it's very, very important that you make good decisions right now. Also, a lot of young people are not voting, and you guys can really get your friends to vote and sway the elections. That's a lot of power. So we need to turn out the vote now. And you have a lot of influence. And I think it's very, very important that we use it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, Emma?
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm a rising senior at a New York school, a New York high school. And I'm involved in some youth advocacy organizations outside of here. And it's really important to me to prioritize youth voice. And I see that there's like a lot of potential here to mobilize young people, especially because just the internet era, there's so much room for like learning new things, growing outside of your circles. So I'm really excited.
Great. Thank you so much for joining. Frank.
Hey, everybody, I'm Frank. I'm currently doing some voter turnout initiatives, podcasting, consulting, as well as being a small business owner, a former bartender and marketer. And I just, like I said earlier, love politics, and I'm trying to figure out how we can parlay the energy that we're experiencing right now into the type of change that we want to manifest for the present and even more so the future.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
I don't have Nelly net, do I? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, so I'm gonna go right into, oh yeah, Gabrielle, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I may also be joined by my friend Brandon on my camera as well, who's a youth activist in New York City.
Oh, wonderful. Fantastic, more the merrier. Okay, so yeah, you guys can use the chat to kind of raise your hand or lift your arm and raise your hand, but let's see if we can have a moderated conversation where, you know, we can call on each other and we're not all talking at once. So feel free to use the chat or use your hand. That works too. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is ask you guys to actually just relax and think of an idea, just one. And it can be very specific, it could be general, but think of an idea that you think would lead to better turnout, greater turnout, or maybe even a massive turnout of young people. Okay, so if you have this idea already, like raise your hand. Okay, Caitlin.
We need to put young people in positions of power. Every single place where decisions are being made, there has to be a young person. Age diversity is just as important as any other form of diversity. And I think it's time that we really set this standard because, as somebody did mention, we are the ones who are going to have to live with this decision. And we also bring a whole new mindset to so many different views. And so how we can get better voter turnout is we put them in positions of power and they understand that they are just as powerful as adults.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Great. Jabari?
Yeah, I think sort of piggybacking on that, there's just a sense of like apathy among the youth. Part of that is because, like Caitlin was saying, you know, our structures of power, there's like a stranglehold on them by older people, you know, and also not even, I think our language is also important too. Like, not that we are, because young people is greater than like high school students or children or whatever, you know. Young adults, people in their 20s and 30s are still made to feel like, I don't know, incapable of achieving those levels of power in our system, you know. Like, younger adults are just as have just as good ideas as older adults, things like that. But I think there's just a huge sense of apathy amongst everyone, but especially in the youth, particularly in the youth, where we feel like, what is the real difference between these two candidates? What will actually change if I vote for these two candidates? I think that's the biggest issue that's like stopping people from actually even wanting to leave their house to do something.
Yeah, so I find that extraordinary just because in the Trump era, I just think there's such a stark contrast. But anyway, I'm gonna keep going. So how about Madison and then Heather? Okay.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that's been said so far. And I would add on that I think a lot of times young people are being told to get out and vote by older people, which is great. But I think that we also need to be encouraging each other to get out and vote because we know that like peer pressure is real. And so using peer pressure in like a positive way so that we have young people motivating other young people to get out and vote, I think that could be really effective, whether that's through like social media or just talking to friends. But I think it's definitely important for us to sort of be lifting up our own voices instead of just being told by other generations to get out and vote.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Heather?
I would piggyback on what Jabari said, engaging them where they are. Things like this are very, very good because we're reaching out to this incredibly wonderful group of young people and not so young people. And but also if some of these activists are holding events, have our elected officials and community leaders go to those events, listen to them in place and increase the voter turnout that way. Register them while they are there. Have those registration events. Tell them where they can vote. Tell them how it works. Tell them what they need to bring to vote. Tell them, hey, bring a couple of your friends to vote. If you need help getting to the voting places, let me help you. That's how we're really going to turn it out because they feel heard, they feel embraced. They're going to show up to vote that way. Hey, say, you know what? This is our local voting. This is our local Dems group. This is how you join. We want you to come back. Please keep coming back. We love what you have to say. Embrace them then.
Mm-hmm. Great. Excellent points. Yeah. Gabrielle?
Building on to what Heather was saying, I think one of the most effective things happened at my school when somebody came in front of the lunchroom and was like pre-registering people to vote. Just a bunch of kids came over because it was exciting for us. I mean, it's obviously a bubble of kids who are very motivated to vote. But it was I think if we send more people out to high schools in states where you can pre-register people to vote who are under voting age, that'd be really good. Mm-hmm.
Although during the pandemic, it might be hard to have those kinds of events, which, hey, Brandon, does Brandon want to say hi?
Oh, hi guys. I'm just listening. I was getting ready. We're about to leave to go somewhere, but I was listening to everything you guys were saying. I agree with everything you guys were saying. Kind of like just thinking about what I could add to the conversation before I stepped in.
Okay, I will be waiting for you. Okay, let's see, who else had an idea or feedback on some of the things that have been said? Kim?
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of great things here. And I did get a chance to talk to two of my kids this week. And, one thing that came up was voter education, which is unfortunately a very mundane topic, but really important. One of my kids said that a lot of people just kind of feel a lot of kids who are young adults who, are voting for the first time feel kind of overwhelmed when they're looking at their ballots. There are a lot of issues that they have to research and understand. So I think voter education is going to be a really important component, but that's especially difficult to do right now in a pandemic. So trying to find ways to reach young adults, socially distancing. And I noticed Joe Barry said that he's a content creator. And, my other daughter said that, she even just mentioned something really simple like memes. She said a lot of people are getting their influence or being influenced through the use of memes and social media. Yeah. So I don't know if there's a way to talk about voter education in a way that's enticing or fun and that gets people thinking about it. But that's, that's something to consider.
Thank you. Emma, and then Frank.
This is kind of piggybacking off of what other people have said. I think there's a lot of, maybe if there's cynicism about voting for young people, it's coming from a place of like distrust in especially like local officials who could be doing more to engage young people and are doing it in disingenuous ways. And young people really like notice that and pick up on it. So it might be helpful to apply more pressure to officials who could be doing more to engage young people in their communities to do that and do it in real ways, not just tokenizing ways, so that there's more of like a culture of genuine involvement.
Wow, that's a very good word, genuine. I hear you. Frank, and then I think Gabriel had his hand up again. Frank?
Yeah, I'm piggybacking partly off of what Emma said, because that's what I was thinking is the transparency isn't there. Politicians talk in circles so often, and especially now, nobody wants to hear that. So we need to be more transparent with how we talk, not talk down to people, especially young people who are over it. They don't have the same allegiances to these old politicians. So they can see through the lies and they don't want to hear the lies. So first, the messaging with the transparent way that says what people know is truth and stop trying to be so fake about it. Secondly, though, is the campaigning aspect of it. How do we get stuff out? Kind of flooding the market. Some stuff will work, some stuff won't work. I'm not good with digital media. I've learned because I've been trying to get this digital podcast off, video podcast, and I just don't know how to do that. But younger people, the skill set is the skill set of the future. And so implementing the technologies and implementing the different social networks and the new style before it happens is very crucial. It's not there yet, but using these new ideas that we don't necessarily know yet to try them out and see what works and see what doesn't is very important, not just for this election, but for the engagement of youth and going down the line when this becomes the status quo.
Okay. Oh, by the way, there's some interesting comments on the Facebook thread. And one of them says, you get young people to vote by creating a platform that inspires young people. So, and another one says, make Bernie the candidate. Yeah. So, by the way, can you guys mute yourself if you're not talking? And Frank, can you mute yourself? So, okay, who was next? I think it was Gabriel. Yeah, go ahead. Jabari, I don't know if you wanted to say something, but you can go next. Yeah, go ahead, Gabriel.
Another hope I have is to continue riding. There's such a torrential wave, at least in New York City, of activism on social media from what Madison was talking about, kids being excited to be teenagers or young adults being excited to be activists themselves. And definitely that wave is dying down as all things do. So finding a way to reignite that or some ways to continue it or convert that into longer term activism is the goal here. I'm just not exactly sure how I would do that.
Okay. Okay, Jabari, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think two things kind of. Firstly, I think the excitement has to come from the community, because if you look at the youth as like a voting group that undervotes, like not like they're not represented like hugely as voters, then they're not going to get the same consideration as say senior citizens, who the vast majority of whom like vote. So we're not going to get a lot of attention from like traditional like organizations to like try to galvanize that group, because it's kind of like they're unreliable from the point of view of like an establishment candidate. That's one thing, but then the second thing is kind of like the comment about like, oh, make Bernie the nominee then will be excited. There's some truth to that in a general sense as well. I think, like, I want to feel that a change will be made. Like, that's what was so inspiring about Barack Obama. You know, the first time he ran, like, he really made people feel like something was going to happen, you know, Medicare for all or whatever. And there is a vast difference between the person that Donald Trump is and the person that Joe Biden is. Like, I'm not trying to draw an equal sign there. But if we're talking about, like, the policy that's been set forth thus far, there's nothing that's been set forth that excites me, you know, and I think that's ultimately whether it's the environment or Medicare for all, the tuition forgiveness, whatever. I haven't heard any suggestions that really make me feel like, yeah, this is, like, something's going to happen, you know?
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad that you brought that up. Yeah, that is certainly an issue. I have some ideas, but I'm going to go to Caitlin, and then I want to introduce some ideas. Caitlin?
So what we can do right now to make change, especially in young people, is we can put more political science classes in the public high schools, and we can encourage clubs where they can talk about politics, and they can make sure that they are heard. And we do need to engage more young people in all the local Democratic parties. Like my Prince William County, there's one for Richmond, there's one for all the big cities. And so we really need to make sure that they know how welcome they are to that. And something that I did is our fee to join the Democrats, my local, is $50. And when I brought up that we need to have a student rate, everybody thought that was a horrible idea. But young people need to be able to access the same opportunities that older people can who might be more established in life. And so it's small things like that where we just advocate and work for change is really how we can change the face of politics. Because after I just kept going and explaining myself, they did implement the change. And now they all know that young people do not have to donate $50, but rather $15 or $20, because we all know that young people might have to choose between paying your rent or food or joining a party. And that's obvious what is the necessary thing. And we need to make sure that we are giving them the same opportunities as everybody, regardless of their age.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so give me a couple of minutes. Okay. One is sort of a long-term idea, and other one is more immediate idea to help Democrats win in this election. The long-term idea is that I feel like we need to really invite young people to think about participation in democracy in a very positive, celebratory way. So a lot of young people don't go through like an official rite of passage. Like some people might think of prom in that way, or graduation in that way, but there are certain cultures like, there are quinceañeras, for instance, in the Latino culture. There's bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs in the Jewish tradition. And so there are these kinds of events in young people's lives where they kind of are seen as adults and the community celebrates with them, right? And I would love to see ways that we can like celebrate the rite of passage when people register to vote, when they turn 18 and they register to vote. Like there's like a massive party thrown for young people who are turning 18, and we can do it as individuals or as a group. So instead of like prom where it's focused on young people hanging out with young people, like it's like the whole community coming together to say these young people now have this special right, privilege, power, responsibility to vote. And it could be a really beautiful thing, and to really discuss how important it is for them to participate, so that like it's not just like, oh, I feel like young people take not young people, all of us, we take too much of a consumerist approach to, oh my God, he's not good enough or she's not good enough, when really like their participation should just be a given. It doesn't matter if they are not perfect. You're not dating them, you're not marrying them, but you have to choose the person who's going to represent you. So I just feel we need a bit of a shift in how we think about voting in elections so that it doesn't feel like we're shopping. It's not like shopping. It's a huge responsibility, and it's a power that we can't ignore and disregard, right? So that's like sort of it's going to take a while for that to, like, I don't know, gel into a real cultural shift. But I would love to see people organizing events like it. The other idea is I would like to ask you guys to think about how many of us are on this call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, like 10, right? There are 10 of us on the call. So 10 people can make a huge difference. Okay. Some revolution started with 10 people or less. If we actually said, okay, let's figure out something we can do together and really commit to it, I think we can make a difference, right? So one thing we could think about doing is, like, you know, I have this platform, Talk on Main Street. I have some other Facebook pages as, you know, what if we work together to like create content that would appeal to young people that we could post here, we could post on Instagram and wherever else, TikTok, but we all work together to kind of try to get it distributed as widely as possible and really ask people to at least share, right? You know, at least share, and maybe even use it to really organize events. So, you know, because we don't have to have memes where people just kind of come out with an idea. We could have memes that invited people to a discussion, you know, to a youth organized town hall. Like you guys, Caitlin, Gabrielle, Joseph, Jabari, Madison, Emma, you guys can organize a town hall for young voters and make it what you want. Do it the way you want it to be, right? Have the people you want on there, have the questions that you want to ask, you know, do whatever you like, really. And I'm just like inviting you, if you want to use it. Hi, Nick is here. Great. So I'm going to let Nick sort of share what he's doing, because he's been very focused on this for several years, turning out the youth vote. So anyway, I'm just going to, that's a short-term idea, is for all of us here to work together to help create the content that's going to engage people and then parlay that into events and actions, right? Because a lot of memes, you know, they're just kind of like, oh, that's funny or cute, but it doesn't lead to action. So I'm just wondering if we could create content together that is action oriented, that would get people to register to vote and so on. Okay. So Nick, I don't know if you've been hearing any of this, but this has been a great conversation with some great organizers here. But Nick has been organizing a pack with the pack. You created a pack, and you've been very focused on turning out the youth vote. So why don't you share what you have been doing, Nick?
Wonderful, and I do apologize for my tardiness this morning and afternoon. Good to be with everybody, and grateful to be invited to a space to talk about an important constituency that I think is well overlooked all the time. And most of the establishment and most of the donor community do not care at all about investing in young people, and not just for our electoral impact, but for our long-term contributions to the progressive movement. Mm-hmm. And if we want to build a movement for change that will sustain the rest of our lives, that will lead to improvements in people's lives for years to come, we have to provide young people with the opportunity to organize, and organize early and young. So really quickly, as Annabel said, I work for a political action committee called Blue Future, and our mission is to train and support young people who want to get involved directly with political campaigns and electoral campaigns. As I'm sure many of you know, there are several organizations that work with young people, some that do nonpartisan voter registration work, and those efforts, we need more of that. We need to register every last voter out there. Other groups focus directly on different issues. whether it's climate change, whether it's gun violence prevention, whether it's racial justice, whether it's women's rights and reproductive freedom and reproductive justice, and so on and so forth. Blue Future's unique contribution is that we try to focus on electing candidates who can help us win on all of those issues, candidates who may uplift the concept that should not be so radical in a 21st century democracy of automatic voter registration. We should not even have to register to vote. We should be able to freely participate in our democracy and elect candidates who can create those types of changes, structural changes to our democracy and to our country and society. And so, you know, our basic model is that we try to raise funds to then share that money, give it directly to students, to young people who know their communities best, who know the content that will work best, who know how to create, you know, compelling videos, memes, messaging, and also hold authentic conversations to actually drive young people to the polls, to get them involved, and to get them organizing so that we reach the number of people we need to reach in order to win. And we really believe, and as I'm sure many of you on the phone, we believe that young people, we have the answers. We know what we are capable of. We just need to be given an opportunity to develop our leadership, to be trained on some of the theories of change and some of the actual tactics that help us get there, and so on. It's an unfortunate reality that it's an under-resourced space, and that there are not that many groups working on providing young people with the opportunity to organize for the future that they want, for the future that we need in order to protect our planet, to protect our people, and to be able to live freely and allow freedom to be something that is for everyone, regardless of our race, our zip code, our background, our economic status, our gender, or what have you. So I don't want to take up too much space. I'd be happy to share more about what specifically some of these things look like, but right now we are running a summer organizing program with over 120 youth activists who are committed to volunteering on some of the most competitive Senate campaigns around the country, to help flip the Senate and help Democrats win up and down the ticket. We will continue the program into the fall for young people who are looking to get involved. We would be excited to meet with you, connect with you, and hopefully work together so that when November 3rd comes around, or rather when November 4th comes around, the headlines can read, not only did we defeat Trump, not only did we take back governors' mansions, not only did we take back state legislators, but young people were one of the key constituency groups that made that happen, and that we left it all in the field. We did all that we could, and we showed up and we turned out. Because if we do that, then once we have new governments, once we have new representation, that's when we can hold folks accountable to the change that we all seek, whether again it's on racial justice or climate or what have you. So, but we have to show up. We have to flex our power. We need to show that we are powerful in helping elect these people, so that once they are elected, they remember who got them there. And that's, I think, one of the responsibilities that we have as young people and as the next generation, to be pushing our electeds to go further and to represent us and be champions for our values. So thank you for having me, and happy to take the conversation wherever you all may like to go.
Yeah, maybe you could put in the chat or in the thread on Facebook your contact information, Nick. And that goes for everybody. Like if you could put it in the Facebook thread, that would be great. So some people are asking to hear more from Jabari. Jabari, can you unmute yourself? And Jabari, can you hear us? Maybe he's frozen. Okay. Looks like he's frozen. Okay. While we're waiting for Jabari, could we go back? I just kind of want to go check in with everybody, including, you know, Joseph, because I want to hear more from you, because you've been on the front lines organizing. I guess I kind of want to ask you guys, maybe think about how you got interested in politics.
Yeah, sorry, it was a little.
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. You're on mute again. you're muted again. Okay, so Jabbar, you're muted, but anyway, we're gonna keep going. So yeah, maybe think about how you got interested in politics and maybe use that to come up with more.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear
What
me?
are your, do you want to add to what you've been saying? Because you're getting specific requests to say more.
So I think I always tend to, I have this tendency to look at like concepts and big picture stuff because I think those the root of our issues, and we tend to like sort of try to tackle the symptom, not the cause. So I just wanted to put this out there to all the young people. You're never gonna feel like an adult. I mean, I see so many memes and things, and talking to my friends and myself, they're like, oh, I'm gonna feel like an adult. We set all these benchmarks for like when we're gonna feel like our opinions matter, when we're gonna feel like I've made it. I'm a full-fledged person. And actually, your comment about like rites of passage sort of sparked that idea to me. So I just want to sort of start shifting that perception to people and sort of getting everyone to like understand that that's not going to happen in that way, where you're like, oh, now that I'm 34, I know everything. Now that I'm 26, my opinions matter. It's like we need to reframe that sort of thinking altogether. If you have an opinion as an 18-year-old, it's valid. And part of what we need to do as a community is create a space that's safe for us to open up and actually talk about those opinions, even the uncomfortable opinions. So I like to create a safe space for people regardless of what. And I also like to meet people where they are. I think Heather mentioned something about that earlier too. I think that's so important. So I just kind of want to throw that into the world, just sort of like get people to know that like your opinions matter, and it's not gonna, your opinions aren't gonna start mattering when you're, an adult. That's just not really a thing.
So how do we encourage that? But how do we encourage young people? How do we get that message across? Like, what do we need to do to, get people to understand that they are safe? I hope they.
Well, now it doesn't.
I hope you guys
like
feel safe right now.
You always create a safe space, but I think now in general doesn't feel like the most safe space for people on the right or the left, really. I know some of the most conscientious, like thoughtful people that are more or less afraid to like speak out or post something just because of this sort of social media culture we live in. But I think to answer your question, I think it's just more talking, more reassurance, like telling people that they do matter.
Yeah.
And what they think does matter,
Okay. Well, I would love to work with you guys on this. Caitlin and then Madison.
I'll be quick because Madison had her hand up first.
Okay.
I think what we need to do is we need to encourage young people to use their voices for change and to remind them always that their voices matter just as much as anyone else. And while they're at it, we should really encourage more young people to run for office, because this is how we can have real systematic change. Is we put young people in positions of power and we say, you're just as good as anyone else and you can do anything.
Okay, Madison?
Yeah, so in thinking about the question of like, how do we get young people to feel like their opinions matter? For me, I think when I realized that I could actually have influence in the political process was when I got directly involved with volunteering for campaigns, and in going door to door, saw the people that I was talking to shift their opinion from a conversation that we had together, or ask a question that I was able to answer. And I think having that direct experience just made me realize that I had so much more influence than I thought, or I could have so much more influence than I thought through that involvement. And I think something that would help with that is encouraging young people, and just everyone in general, honestly, to get involved locally, because I think often national politics is obviously so important. The presidential race is so important, but I think it can feel a little bit more detached from people because it's such a large scale. So some people take the mindset of my single vote doesn't matter. And we know that it does, But I think encouraging people to not only vote for the presidential election, but also in the down ballot races is really key to people realizing that they can affect change in not only the whole country, but in their local communities. So I just think encouraging young people to get involved, even if it's on a small scale at first, is going to be a really crucial part of making a difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Madison. Okay, I don't know who else had their hand up, but I see Heather. So can you raise your hand? All of you who want to say something, can you raise your hand right now? Okay, I see Heather and Frank, and then Gabrielle. Okay, Joseph, I'm going to come back to you though, so you better come up with something. Heather?
Madison, I was going to say the exact same thing. Start local. You don't have to start big. Just start with your local government. I love going to my county board of supervisors. I see what's on the agenda. And if I don't like something that I see, because we're talking about a lot of money, a lot of change, you know, I can comment on the agenda. I can email my county board. I can go and I can speak at citizens time, and I can actually influence change in my county, and I find my voice. And by finding my voice there, I got better at talking to citizens when I knocked those doors.
Right.
And that is how you make change. And you bring a friend with you, and then you find your tribe. And when you find your tribe, you're bringing those young people to the table as well. And that is really a great way to get started. So Madison, I really appreciate what you said, because that really is the way to get started, is starting local.
Thank you. Very good point. Okay, Frank?
So it's interesting because I'm no longer a teenager, in my 20s, obviously, but I still have the same beliefs I did when I was younger. And so my ideology hasn't really changed much, even though I have more experience and I'm probably more cynical as a result of fighting these battles. But I still feel like part of the problem with politics in general is that we still talk about it in such an old-fashioned way that it makes us say, how do we reach out to young people? It's like, how do we reach out to Black people? These aren't monoliths. People are individuals. And so what we have to do is stop talking in these labels that are like trying to myopically put together how to reach out to these specific people, and instead speak in a way that actually is inclusive to people. Again, young people see through the BS of how we talk and how the politics are right now. And so until we address how we actually think about things, it won't change. But having said that, having the young vote and having this opportunity where people are getting more engaged.
Frank, we're having sound problems.
Police, just like the school.
Hey, Frank.
You did it again.
Yeah, we're having sound problems. It might help if you turn off your video and just do audio.
That's works
I think it's like bandwidth issues. Yeah.
It's something that happened with this computer's acting up.
Oh, that's better, just the sound. Yeah.
Okay, you can hear me. So one more time. More inclusive. Younger voters are the same as all voters. They're individuals. But as a group, they see through the BS more. They're not as inclined to think about them.
Yes. Oh my God, that is such a good point. Yes.
So part of it is cutting through that. And we can't keep going with the old playbooks, but we don't need to do that anyway. It's 2020. We need to create new playbooks for new problems, create new solutions. And that's what this influxion of youth and all of these Black Lives Matter concepts and what's going on with the Constitution and what Donald Trump is talking about is looking at these through the prism of today and tomorrow. And just like these Confederate statues of yesterday, get over them. They are history. We have that book, but we have new problems, a new day, and we have to figure that out. And once we do that, we won't even have to worry about reaching out to the youth because it will be common for all people. We'll be worried about all of these things as a community. But if we don't cut through the BS, it's going to be the same old, same old.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Nick.
Or Gabriel was next, I think.
Oh, okay. Gabriel and then Nick.
I was going to make a point about how an issue that is really viable to change on a local level is the defunding of police. That's an issue that a lot of people are super passionate about right now. And it's an issue that's on like a city to city level. And that's something that when young people are voting for certain officials, that's an issue that, oh, I can make a change by voting for this person.
Oops. I think your sound is dropping off there, Gabriel. Okay, Gabriel, I can't hear you anymore. Nick, why don't we go to you? We'll come back to you, Gabriel.
Thank you, Annabelle.
It's a big issue. And to add on to that about local voting, you know.
Okay. Okay. Nick, why don't you go next?
I was gonna just go off of what Frank was saying about, you know, both that we're young people and all different populations are not a monolith, and we do need to make things more inclusive and more equitable. And again, one way to do that is to pay young people for their time, their energy, for their work, not to expect that they will be volunteers just because they may not have the most experience. Because if we only offer as campaigns and organizations unpaid internships, that excludes such a large population, especially the people that we need most in the conversations, who represent communities that have been left out of our power structures so far and in our past. And so we have to think about also funding and who holds the money and who makes the decisions. And campaigns have a lot of money, right? They have a lot of things they need to spend it on. But young people need to be pushing for a transformation in how we are understood in terms of our role in politics. And we need to demand that we deserve to get paid for this work so that it can be equitable, so that it can be accessible, and it can be inclusive, because that's how it's at the earlier ages that you have a diversion where you have people who can take an unpaid internship starting to get political experience, and then they go on, and guess who runs for office? The people with more privilege, right? And who were able to take those early internships. But if we had an even playing field, again, at the earliest levels, for the voter registration internship, or for a field organizer or field volunteer position, and it was open and equitable to all, then we have more diverse campaign managers, more diverse campaign operatives, and then look who will end up running for office. And so I think thinking about the structural change there in terms of how we budget campaign money is super important as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. So there are 145 comments on the thread. So I think you guys should try to look through some of those comments. But we have one person saying, like, we need to be talking about real issues that are going to make systemic changes. Like I think like Medicare for All and campaign finance reform, that we're not necessarily talking about the issues that's going to lead to transformative change, like the kind of issues and solutions that probably like Bernie Sanders brought to the table. Are those issues still on the table? Are they disappearing? How important is that to young people to hear that there are very concrete and transformative solutions being proposed? Are we just not hearing that right now? I mean, that is something that worries me as well. Is that people aren't necessarily excited about the policy proposals. And there's a lot, if you go to joebiden.com, he has so much written on these issues. but like there's nothing like really jumping out, I think, off the page as like this is what Biden is going to do and this is what he stands for. And so it may look like BS to people, right? So I wanted to kind of bring that up. It's like, does the Biden campaign inspire people? What can we do to inspire more people? Okay, Caitlin and Jabari. Jabari, did you want to say something? Okay, Jabari and then Caitlin. Go ahead.
So one of the biggest issues that young people face. Are you good?
I'm sorry. Okay.
One of the biggest issues that we face right now is we cannot afford to move out of our parents' homes, and we can't even afford to go to college. And a lot of times we can't even afford our own health care. And so that is a very big issue that I'm disappointed that more people are not addressing, because this is the issues that really do impact many, many young people today. And I feel like more people need to listen and understand that, because if we can't even have a good start to the most basic milestones in life, how do you expect young people to exceed and to make this country thrive? And so I do think that more politicians need to address this and to make our economy work for all.
Okay, thank you. Jabari.
Yeah, again, I just want to reaffirm how incredible young people are today. Because like I couldn't even spell down ballot when I was a senior in high school, and the sister over there used it completely properly. So that's where I just want to like again reaffirm that. But you know, I think Caitlin, you're absolutely right. And part of the problem is young people have been framed like the fact that people who were born in the year 2000 have only lived in a recession. They've only experienced the world in a recession, and still they're framed as like lazy. They don't want to leave their parents' house. They're just sitting around eating avocado toast all day. And that is because like the power structures they're not going to be a genuine ally in this, because the more power that we as the youth or the next generation gets, they're taking that power from, that's less influence from the establishment, you know? So I think that's something that we just need to like, at least consider as we move forward. Like the DNC isn't necessarily going to be gung-ho in making these things happen and making young people feel, you know, great, because that is less influence that these people have because they're already there, you know.
Yeah, but do you feel inspired by Biden at all?
Yes, that your actual question. I would say I don't, because I mean he's already said like he'd veto Medicare for all. There's a lot of rhetoric about like, you know, the change that will happen, but you look at the Senate, you look at the House, and it's like, is there really enough support to actually pass any of this like sweeping legislation that would actually make change? And that's where the apathy comes in, and that's where the that's why I don't get excited, because I'm like, we can all talk about it. Everyone can talk about it, and everyone will talk about it when they're giving a speech. But you look at the numbers and who actually supports what and where their money is coming from, that sort of makes me lose a little bit of faith.
Okay, well, thank you. So I Joseph and Heather have their hands up, but this is what I want to do. I want to go to Joseph and then Heather, but I would like for all of us to have a chance to have sort of a closing thought. And my request to you is, in the closing thought, maybe say something that you're interested in exploring based on some of the ideas that have been brought up, or it could be a new idea. One thing I want to propose right now is to do this again. I would love for us to talk again and give all of you a chance to really be heard, at least through the platforms I have, and, you know, co-create stuff or help you create stuff. You know, I would really love that, all of you. And you guys are very modest in how you described yourself at the beginning of the call, because I know how extraordinary and talented, accomplished you guys are. So, but we'll do like one-on-one conversations to really bring that out. Okay, so Joseph and then Heather.
I just wanted to say that everybody needs to, like, young people specifically also are more interested in the issues more than they are necessarily candidates. So we need to remember that change does not work from the top down, that goes from the bottom up. So we need to get more young people that are actually involved in more local stuff, like has previously been mentioned already. But we need people to realize that just because the top of the ticket isn't necessarily somebody that you're inspired by, that you love, but you need to realize that there's down ballot candidates that are truly going to make more of an impact on you and your life and how you live more than the top of the ticket will. So we need to have more of a centralized focus that even when people don't like the top of the ticket, that they need to realize there are still a lot more than just the top of the ticket that impacts them and their livelihoods more than a president would.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Heather.
So I may not be overly inspired during the next presidential election, but I am inspired for change. And I think that's something that most of us can agree on, that we are inspired to see a change in the White House. And so for that reason, we need to bring out the vote because we are inspired to see a change. Our country is at a pivotal time. We are ready for change. So ready for change. And this generation is the great generation of change. This is the last generation that we should have to talk about racial justice. We don't need to talk about it when my small children are this age. We need to put somebody else in the White House that is going to be on board for that. So whether or not we're incredibly inspired by this candidate or not, we need to put somebody in the White House who's on board, and we need to come together and turn out the vote.
Yeah. Amen. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to keep calling on you guys. Okay. Emma, do you have a closing thought or an idea?
Yeah. I just wanted to say I really liked what Nick said about compensating young people. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's a good way to recognize like labor that's like real labor. And it's also really important to create equity and break down barriers, because I thought it was a really great point that that's a barrier in who gets involved in politics, who has the resources and the liberty to put their time there into volunteering. So I really like that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Madison and then Kim.
Thank you. I think that I'm taking so much away from this call. I'm personally like just graduated high school. I don't have a lot of experience with all of this, but I'm so excited to get more involved. I think there's been so many amazing ideas on this call. And what I'm going to take away personally is having more conversations like this in my day-to-day life with my friends. And I believe it was Heather who suggested the idea of like a registered to vote social media campaign. So throughout this call, I've been thinking about how to put that together. And I think that's something I'm really interested in doing. So hopefully that's something.
Yay! Who wants to work with Heather and Madison on this? Raise your hand. Oh yeah, oh my God, this is fantastic. Yes, Heather and Madison, take the lead.
Sure, I'll put my email in the chat so that we can get in touch about that. But I have some ideas. Your ideas.
You guys just gave me so much hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is rough. Kim?
Yeah, okay. So just my closing thought is, if there's a way we can help young people understand that when they do turn in their ballots, they're really flexing their power. I think maybe we've said it before that they just feel like it doesn't matter, but it so does. And it's so important to get that message across that when they do get out and vote, the reason why so many policies are written for senior citizens is because they vote in huge numbers. So when young people get out and vote in huge numbers, even if your candidate doesn't necessarily win, politicians, the powers that be, they see that. They see large numbers of people getting out to vote, and they start writing legislation and policy that benefits young people, and it's going to benefit them for years to come. So that is something to see, to try to get the point across, that it's so important just to get out to vote and flex your muscles and let them know we're here and our voice counts.
Thank you. Okay. Nick. Nick.
Yeah, thank you for hosting the conversation. Eager to follow up with folks, and we at Blue Future want to be a resource to any young people who are newer to the space, who are looking to get involved, who are trying to find a home in terms of a community of other like-minded young people who understand what's at stake and who are willing to do the work to create a change, first and foremost by electing candidates that we can believe in, that will listen to us, that will hear our voices, and advocate for a brighter future that includes all of us, and that builds a democracy in a country where freedom and justice is for everyone. Again, regardless of where you come from, what language you speak, how much money is in your bank account, and things like that. So we'll just keep pushing along. We're 100 days away from the election. And then even after that, the work will really start to hold our electeds accountable. So thanks for having us.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, before I continue, I'm just curious, how many of you guys are on TikTok or somewhere Instagram where you create content already? Can you raise your hand? Okay, great. Okay. So let's see, Gabrielle, Caitlin, Frank, and then Jabari. Okay, Gabrielle?
So my two big takeaways from this are, one, this is an amazing group of people, and I always love these calls, and I'm excited to do more. It's just such an amazing experience to talk with people all over the country. And my second takeaway is that I want to do a bunch of research on why people aren't voting and the history of that, just to fill in the gaps in my knowledge about that, and participate in the conversation more.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I think Caitlin, was it? Yeah, Caitlin?
So what I want to say and leave everybody with is, when you are a young trailblazer, people will always underestimate you. Know that those people are wrong, and your age is one of your greatest strengths. Again, we matter just as much as anybody, and our time as young people is right now. What we need to do is we need to be more inclusive to everybody's needs, and we need to have no excuse absentee voting all across our country, because our young people are in schools and they're working several jobs just to make a living wage. And that's what we need to do right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Frank, and then Jabari.
I think my internet is working better now, but Joseph, inside out, I've always said that. I love when Joseph said that earlier. It's not top down, it's from the bottom up. We need to worry about our communities, our peers, our families, and be voices in our community. Shout out to Jabari, shout out to Caitlin, Madison. Being voices is so important. Putting in the work is so important. Collaborating, the effort. If we can just use this time and our specific passions to reach others and help them and get it started in our own communities, in our own homes, that's the first start. And then with that passion, we're already seeing it around the country. We're seeing what's going on. I know change doesn't happen as fast as we want it, but we can speak to what's going on beyond Joe Biden. I get that the man is 90 years old. He's not going to be inspiring, but the AOCs are, and the Charles Bookers, even though he lost his election, we're seeing people that have different faces, that are younger, that are a whole new breed, that are getting into politics right now. There are people to point to get excited about. This doesn't have to be all Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden. This is about our community. And like Caitlin said, the future's now. The future is now.
Good point. Jabari? Jabbar, you're on mute. You there?
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I just want to affirm the wonderfulness of the youth, and just like to Madison, don't ever start what you say about what you don't know, about your lack of experience, because again, that's what people do. That no one's going to discourage you in one fell swoop. It happens in several little cuts. So don't help anyone in doing that work. All right, like your opinion matters. You're here. You want to learn, you want to make a positive change, like that already validates your opinions. You know, the fact that you're willing to learn and talk and speak out, like that's all you need. You don't need any more years or any more experience for that to be valid. And don't play a part in like silencing everyone. And those little things we do absolutely add up. So I just want to reaffirm that to you as well. And to everyone, we're walking into this time where we're going to have to do an exhaustive amount of conversation. So much more conversation than we would like to have to do. But, you know, I always say, like, do you want to be right, or do you want things to be better? You know? And to make things better, you just have to like be willing to walk in and have those hard conversations. And to do that, you just have to make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Your mental health is good. You know that you're coming from a good place. And if you reach your limit, it's okay to take a break and, you know, work on your foundation again. It's only human. Right? That's all. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you so much. I mean, I feel so grateful to all of you, not just for being on this call, but for everything you're doing. I mean, again, I know you guys don't want to brag, but I know how extraordinary you guys are and all the stuff you're doing, all your ideas. I mean, right here, just as a group, we can do something that could make a difference in this election. So let's keep talking. I would love to do an interview with all of you. I did one with Frank, I did one with Jabbar, but I would love to do like a one-on-one interview with all of you and get to know you better. And all of you also have platforms. You have your network. Some of you have bigger platforms than others, like Caitlin's Miss Virginia, for instance. So she has a platform, but everyone has a platform. So let's do everything that we can. Let's commit to doing everything that we can to at least really try to influence the people around us in our networks, but people who can hear us on a day-to-day basis. You know, and I would love to have you guys be, you know, regular guests and just help support you if you have ideas. I want to support you in whatever you want to pursue. And let's get creative. Let's get bold. Let's get courageous and see what we can do. So thank you so much. Please take a look at the comments and share this discussion on your pages. And I'm extremely grateful to you. Thanks, everybody. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, everybody. Yay, yes.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Really appreciate this. Okay. Read the comments, Jabari. Lots of fan mail for you. Okay.
Hold up, don't quit before I get the email stuff.
Oh, okay. I'll wait for you. I can also connect us by email too.
Oh yeah, I'll just get it from you. All
okay.
Right.
Thanks so much, Heather.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Annabel, you are the best.
You are the best, Annabel.
You guys are so sweet.
You're amazing. You're awesome. Thanks for setting all this up. You're great. It really is great.
Yeah, you might two. I'm glad you guys are still on, because two of you guys, I really would like to partner up with you for regular conversations. So, like, let's figure it out.
For sure, okay. I'm down.
Yeah,
down,
for sure.
Here.
For sure.
Okay.
jparker@gmail.com. I got you locked in. I'll be in touch.
All right, brother.
Yes, indeed.
All right, man.
Okay, you guys.
All right, bye, Annabelle. Bye, Frank. Nice meeting you.
Bye.
Peace, brother.
Okay.
You've been listening to Conversations About a Way Forward from Count Me In to Win and The Talk on Main Street. To learn more, find us on Facebook at The Talk on Main Street.